if you're a developer and you want to make more money or you want to get into some kind of business, development agency is one of those businesses that you can do. And I have been running one myself for the past 2.5, almost 3 years. And so I've learned a couple things. And in that time frame, I've also made a lot of mistakes. I actually basically built my entire business by running my head into the wall several times over and over. I almost bankrupted the company twice in the first year. And so it's been quite a journey, and then now it's come to provide a lot more for me. But in the first year and a half, it was a very painful experience. And so I have some comments on basically what I would do if I were to start from zero. And I find a lot of people who watch my type of stuff ask me that kind of question. And from absolute zero, first thing, the way I started my agency was I was just very much on the right lines. I started by spending time on Twitter. Spent a lot of time on Twitter. And the idea of Twitter is basically a community. You don't necessarily have to use Twitter. You could do LinkedIn, you could do in-person. But the point is, I basically had a bunch of friends and made a lot of friends and acquaintances and met a lot of people in the spaces that I wanted to be in. And then at some point I started being interested in launching a development agency. And I started telling people about it through Twitter. And that was how I got my first deal. And so step one is basically do exactly like the way that I started. That step was quite on the ball. In terms of, you basically just need to tell people about what you're doing. I coach a couple people privately, and I only take up to 5 people at a time. But one of the issues that a lot of people seem to have is like they basically try and they're like, oh, how do I get clients fast and whatever. So well, basically think about the number of humans that know about your company. How many humans can I count? Can I find who, if I ask them, hey, who can I go to for software services? And they will say your company. Like, how many people is that? The reality is it's probably not that many. And, for a lot of the guys, when you start out, you're literally talking about 2-3 people on the planet who know about your company. So the first thing you have to do is go tell people about it. And the reason I don't think cold outreach is the best way to start is because you need to identify somebody who needs specifically that service. And it's very hard to identify those type of people because nobody advertises that they're looking for software contractors, except people on Upwork or Fiverr, which you can start with, but generally you compete very much on price. And so you're completely commoditized on those platforms. And the problem is, if you do outreach to a bunch of people who you don't know, and you're outreaching to a bunch of business owners, most of which don't want any software, they don't care to hear from you. And so you send them a message and you say, hey, I'm Minthouse. And they say, I don't care, fuck off and shut up. And so they're not going to retain the name of that company. And so the number of humans that can tell you about Minthouse on this planet are still not going up. And so, that number is still not going up, rather. And so one of the first things I would do is basically find a community in which you can make friends and actual connections and people who will remember your name and therefore remember the name of your company, or at least what you do. And, when you start out, your company is you. And so you start by basically, you make more connections, get to know more people, and they're going to know that you do software services. And so by extension, they're going to, associate you with that. And over time, you'll get referrals from that. And that's basically, I think, the best way to start. The next thing I would do is, as soon as I get a client, so once I have that first deal secured, focus on fulfillment. And this is where I started to not get my priorities so good. That sounds really weird. Not put my priorities in order, rather. I started getting that deal and I started working on it, but I moved to contractors very quickly and I didn't vet them properly. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was hiring for. And that was a pretty big mess. And yeah, I also stopped doing Twitter, actually. I basically lost my habit because I started to go to conferences and I thought events were the next big thing, and that's how I was going to get all my clients. What I didn't realize is you have to get good at something, and to get good, you have to suck at it first. If you want to get good at basketball, you have to start, and when you start, you're going to be terrible at it. If you want to do weightlifting, if you want to do virtually anything, you'll suck at it for a long time before you get good at it. And so I moved to try and acquire customers through events. But guess what? I suck at events because I'd never done it before. And so I spent a bunch of money traveling to a bunch of places and I didn't make any deals. And events are very expensive. I would say there's no more, like, the most cost-effective way of doing lead generation is by far social media, because there's no upfront costs. Like, literally, even events and stuff, maybe you have a little bit of transport if it's local to your city. If you go international, which is what I did, you have to pay flights and accommodation and food, and it's just a bad idea. And I did that, and that was really stupid of me. So I would really just focus on that. Like, focus on the deal that you have at hand and stay within the community that you started out with. Wherever you got your first client, stick to that. Keep going there. Dig into it until you basically get as many clients as you can off of that one community. Don't look to other acquisition channels. And then, I would also say, Like when it comes to client fulfillment, just do a really, really good job. That is how I would start a development company. And from there on out, you basically continue to find clients through that acquisition channel and continue to make your processes better and better. I think that's an entirely different video. But fundamentally, if I were to start from zero, the only step that I would change is I would actually reduce the number of different things that I did. I would just focus more. And focus is the most powerful force that I can possibly name in business so far. The data has shown that time and time again. I have to go. Oops. I need to pick up this call. Anyway, I gotta head out. But do subscribe if you enjoyed a little bit of that, because most people who watch my videos are not subscribed. And comment if you have any questions.